and welcome to Wine and Culture, where we talk about the joys of wine in various cultures. I am your host, Trudy Hanna, owner and founder of Pie Imports. Today, we will be exploring French wines with the culture and the region and the climate, which contributes to the characteristics of respect, humility, requirements, and precision of the unique Domaine Maby varietals. Located in the south of the Rhone Valley, the Maby estate has been passed on from generation to generation for more than 70 years. For Richard Maby, for his respect and humility, this winemaker is committed to offering wines designed with requirement and precision, with the purpose of continuing to make tasting Maby wines a unique moment of pleasure. Today, we have here with us David Quinones, Domaine Maby's Winery's Director of Sales. Hello, David. Thanks for gracing our first episode here on YouTube. How are you today?
Hello, Trudy. I'm great. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and to be able to explain the wonderful wines that we do here to your wonderful customers.
Thank you, David. I appreciate that. So to start, can you tell us something about yourself and your role at Maby?
Yeah. So like you said, I'm the salesperson of the winery. I'm in charge of the French and the export market. I used to work more on the technical side. I used to do seller hand jobs. I worked in Australia for a year, for example, and worked a little bit in other wineries in France. But yeah, I'm focusing more on the sales right now. I think that the focus on the sales is interesting, but the fact that I've done other things before, especially in the vineyards, in the winery, gives me kind of a good vision of the entire wine business, and that's pretty interesting.
Oh, nice. That's really is wonderful. And that's something that I always tell individuals about wine. Everyone always sees the wine bottle when it comes to the table when they pour in the glass. But there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes with wine and wine production and sales and marketing that it's just so much, it's so profound. So, but I know no one wants to hear all of that. So I think everyone really wants to get into the really exciting thing, and that's wine tasting. So the suspense is killing me. I cannot sit here too long and not feel the temptation of these wines. Today we will be experiencing 3 wines from the Domaine Maby winery: the Cotes, the Forcadiere Tavel, and the Baroques. Now, let me apologize. My French is not good.
Don't worry. It's perfect. It's fine.
Great. Thank you. You're so kind. So my preference to start is with the rosé wine. Would you prefer to start with the rosé wine as well, the Tavel?
Yeah, we'll do that definitely. Even if it's a rosé wine that goes well with food, with the entire section that we have, it's better to start with the rosé.
Absolutely. Definitely. Great. So while we try this wine, I would like to display. This is the bottle. That's the wine. So David, before we begin, can you share with our viewers a brief history of the history of Maby?
Yeah, definitely. First of all, enjoy that wonderful rosé. And yeah, so the winery, like you said, has been passed on from generations to generations in the Maby family. It was created just after the Second World War by Armand Maby, so the grandfather of Richard, which is the owner right now. They actually, like pretty much everyone in the region, had already vineyards before the World War. But the thing is, they were doing like sheeps and different production things, not only wine. But in the 40s, that's when they kicked in and it really started the vineyard. After that, after the grandfather started it, his son and two sons-in-law came with him to grow even bigger than it was before. We were fortunate to already have the AOC Tavel because we had it from 1936, which is already a big thing. It helps quite a lot for the production, for the sales, and for the image also. We do have a very big neighbor on the other side of the Rhone River, which is Châteauneuf for the ones that want to ask. and so having that AOC helps quite a lot. And so the vineyard, the winery grew even bigger. We bought some vineyards in Lirac, which is the village nearby, and is also an AOC from 1947. So it does help as well, especially because we're allowed to produce red wines and white wines in Lirac, which is not allowed in Tavel.
Right, because it's just rosé.
Yes, exactly. That's why we're having it. And then so we were in the 60s now, and now we're going to the 2005 when Richard, now the owner, came to the winery, replaced his father, and started to aim more on the modern style wines and bring some new ideas because the winery was good, doing really good wines, but needed to step up a little bit. And that's when Richard came in.
Because, isn't Richard currently doing sustainable wines and organic wines?
In the process of doing it.
Yes.
We're in the second year of conversion towards organic agriculture. So it should be next year that we're 100% certified. Okay.
Oh, awesome. Awesome. Yeah. I definitely look forward to that. That's going to be really, really nice. Really nice.
Good.
So, David, if you could, would you briefly describe the climate, terroir, and topography of the Rhone region in Macron?
Yeah. Well, it's an really important part of what the wine at the end is. Without that, there's no typicity on the wine. There's no difference really if you don't have a different soil or a different climate. So in the region, in this part of the Rhone Valley, actually we're in the south of the Rhone River, near Avignon, and like I said, near Châteauneuf-du-Pape. So we do have a Mediterranean climate with lots and lots of wind. It is really dry and hot in the summer. It can go up to 42 degrees Celsius.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
yeah, I've been to France. France can be hot.
Yeah, it's pretty hot in here. But there's always a little bit of breeze. So it's hot, but it's doable, I would say.
Is it right? Okay.
And the summers, the winters, sorry about that. The winters are pretty mild. We don't often have less than zero degrees, to be honest. And a little bit of rain, not a lot, but some rain.
Right.
So the soils in Tavel and Lirac are pretty similar, to be honest, because we're actually sharing the same plateau. So the soil is pretty much the same. It's mostly road pebbles, the same as Châteauneuf-du-Pape, the famous galets roulés, limestones and sand as well. What makes Lirac and Tavel different, and the soil that we have, is really those road pebbles. They're really good because they keep the vines warm during the night. So we always have like a great temperature all around, and it really helps the maturity for the grapes.
And also too, those pebbles actually help with controlling the moisture.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's what the
definitely.
total was.
Exactly. Yeah. The wind helps way more, but definitely that helps as well. Yeah.
As well. Gotcha. Thank you. So, okay. So we talked enough about the climate, the terroir and things like that. Let's talk about these awesome wines. Okay. So the Tavel. What can you tell us about the Tavel?
Yeah. So Tavel, I just had a great sip.
I love the Tavel.
Like we said, Tavel, the appellation, only allows us to produce rosé wines. Mm-hmm. So it will be from red grapes, obviously, and we have to put those grapes in a tank and macerate, ferment it for a number of hours to get to a point where we have great tannins, great color, and great overall structure. We actually have a rule that we cannot forget or not do. We cannot go too light on the color. So that's why we really have to fermentate those grapes in the tanks with the juice to get something that has more color than any other rosé that you may find from Provence, for example, stuff like that. So the idea behind that is to offer a rosé that is kind of like a light red. Maybe you can agree with that. It's really, it has tannins, but they're not really powerful. They're there, but you can't really taste them, feel them. You have a great structure, you get good length, you've got more that red fruit like strawberry or raspberry flavors, more than like orangey or very fresh and acidic taste that you have on the other rosé. And all that makes it a perfect rosé for food, we say gastronomie here in France. It's kind of a too much word for me, but it's really good for food. If you like sushi, for example, like I do, just go for that.
Right. No, and I totally agree with you. And that's one of the aspects of this Tavel that I try to get across to consumers and retailers is that this wine is, everyone thinks of a rosé and they think of it as a mutt or maybe as a sweet wine, but these Tavels are not sweet at all. They have more so, and I would say a dry, they're more on the dry side, and they give more of a complexity and a body and a characteristic that you otherwise wouldn't get with some rosés that I've come across, because sometimes that sweetness can be a little overpowering to the food. And you're so right. I've tried these Tavels with red meat, with seafood, shellfish, rice, pasta, spicy food, creams, and it's great. They're not limited into like you may get with red wines where they're typically with red meats because of the tannins and so forth. And then with white wines, you need more of the lighter dishes. This Tavel, you can eat it and you can enjoy it with everything. Or if you just want to chill on a nice warm day, it's excellent there as well.
And all year round.
All year round. I mean, you have that, like you said, that red body. And then you have those rich ripe berries that complements this wine as well. And when I first tried it, and I often tell this story because I never heard of Tavel like 4 or 5 years ago, and I was working with a coworker from France, and she asked me, did I know of the Tavels? And I was like, no, I had never heard of them. And she introduced me to Richard. And that's how Richard and I established the partnership, was through that. and it's been so enjoyable ever since. And I'm such a cheerleader for the Domaine Maby.
Well, thanks to her.
Oh no, right. So with that being said, do you want to get to our red wines now?
Definitely.
All right, great. So I guess let's start with the Cotes. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Great idea.
All right, great. So yeah, here we have the Cotes. So what can you tell us about the Cotes, David?
So, well, I'm pouring a glass at the same time.
Okay, no worries.
So the Cotes du Rhone that we're having here is a blend of Grenache, Syrah, Mourvèdre, and Carignan. Okay, so 4 red grapes that we have in the region. The Grenache obviously is the main one. It's 50% of the blend that we have here. And it's good that you started with that one because it's more elegant and subtle than the second one, and that's why you picked it, obviously. But it's more subtle, and I like the fact, and actually the 2 that we're going to try, I like them even in the summer, like a little bit chilled, because they're like full of fruits. But also with a good structure. So this one we're having, the Cotes du Rhone, the Variation, is very round and fruity with a good length. It's not that much powerful, but you can still have that red fruit and those good tannins in it. And actually, it's kind of a red wine that you can have with white meat, like chicken or turkey or stuff like that. You can go to lamb, but I like it with lighter food, really.
Yes. And and also about this Cotes du Rhone that I like as well, as you mentioned, on the nose, you can smell those red and black fruits, like the plums and raspberry, blackberries, and things like that. But it also has this peppery kind of spice notes to it.
Yeah.
That's really
that's the Syrah.
Ah, see. Oh, real. Oh, nice. It's good to know. Yeah. And also, as you stated, I wasn't aware that these could actually be served chilled. That's a good note to add to it as well. Because I typically drink drink the Cotes du Rhone at room temperature. But for some that likes a chill wine on a summer day, that would be a good recommendation to chill it as well.
Yeah, the thing is, we're getting more and more alcohol in our wines in the region. They're quite high, and if you drink them too cool, definitely you'll find more alcohol, and it's not interesting. But if you go to like 12 or 14 degrees Celsius, you still have that that fruit flavor, but that temperature a bit lower kind of breaks the alcohol, or you don't really taste it the same way when the wine is well done, and you don't have that much of a full body powerful feeling if it's a bit chill. So yeah, that's why we like those 2 for that.
Right. It's just we just need to be mindful to tell the consumers that don't over chill it, just get it at a nice even chill, just room temperature, but a little lower.
Exactly.
Right. And honestly, I love this Cotes du Rhone. Like you said, it's elegant. For someone who's just coming into wine and learning about wine and wine tasting, this is my go-to wine. It's one that is not overpowering. It gives you the complexity that you want, and it's just enjoyable. And in some regards, it's a little easy to pronounce. and it's recognizable. It's a recognizable wine.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the Cotes du Rhone region it's pretty big. It goes, well, the entire Côte d'Iron, if we really think about it, goes from the Côte Rôtie, Vienne up north, and go down to south of Avignon. So it's a quite wide area and large as well. And there's very different kind of wines coming from there. But if you go for the Côte d'Iron appellation, the kind of basic one, you can't really go wrong for either of the colors, actually, the red, the rosés, or the whites. And I agree with you, and that's why you can't really go wrong. It's for someone that starts in the wine, they're really easy to understand, and they're really easy to enjoy. There's not really anything too complex in it. So if you don't really know your wine, you will still enjoy it right away. But even if you know your wine, there's still something in it. So that's the main thing.
Right, absolutely. Thank you for that, David. Just a few more questions about the Côte d'Iron. So, are the Côte d'Irons good for aging?
Well, like we said, they've got good structure and good tannins. So if you add that together, that's definitely something good for aging.
Right.
It will a little bit depends from where they come from, the soils and the terroir, as we say. That will depend on if you can age like 2 or 3 years, or maybe 4 or 5. But yeah, that structure and those tannins, it allows them to evolve for quite good time, like 3, 5, 7 years sometimes, even 10, but you have to be careful with that. The fact that we grow, the grapes that we grow develop great fruit aromas, allow us to also preserve that. Because if you don't really have a lot of expression up front, you lose that in the evolution, you know. But since we have that much fruit, the structure will go along and bring that all the way. So definitely good for aging.
Right. Oh, I just love that. I love the Côte d'Iron. Anyway, okay. One other question about the Côte d'Iron. Are there any white wine varietals of the Côte d'Iron?
Yeah. Well, like I said, Côte d'Iron is a pretty wide area for starters, and actually has the 3 colors. And yes, you can find white wines from Côte d'Iron. The grapes that we have, the main ones, I would say, are Grenache White. So it's the sister or brother of the Grenache Red that we use for the red. Viognier, you probably heard of that one. Clairette and Roussanne. Okay, there's a bunch of other ones that I didn't tell you about because there's plenty. But those are the main ones for the Côte d'Iron. The thing that you also need to think about and know is that there's cru in the Côte d'Iron. You know, the way we do appellations, we have the AOC, the Côte d'Iron, the generic one, and it's like a pyramid shape. And on top, you have all the cru. And here in Lirac, we're lucky to be able to produce Lirac White, for example.
Oh, wow. Okay. Nice. All right. Good to know. Thank you. So are you ready to move on to the Baroques?
Yes.
Go for it. So here, I have it here. This is the Baroques.
Perfect.
So let me start by asking, what is the story behind the Baroques wine? So
the Baroque wine, for the appellation, because we like appellations here in France.
You have a lot of them.
It's a new name actually. It's like 10 years that we call that IGP, Geographical Protected Indication. It was called Vin de Pays before, country wine. It's space areas that are either closer to the rivers or further up from either other appellation from the Côte du Rhone or the Cru. They're usually terroirs that are better for producing lighter and easy drinking wines. Mm-hmm. The thing is, I'm going to say the opposite as just said. We had the opportunity to buy a beautiful vineyard that was IGP at the time, but that was really, really close to the Lirac appellation. So the soil and everything around in it is almost the same as the Lirac. So we decided to buy that vineyard like 20 years ago. And since it's not in the area of Lirac, we cannot call it Lirac. Mm-hmm. But we definitely treat it as a Lirac. And so that's why you have in that wine something more powerful and more tannic than what we had on the Côte du Rhone.
Ah, nice. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean, because when you look at this wine, it has more of a garnet red color. And aroma that you get on the nose is those blackberries, plums, some clove. You know, it's more of an earthy type wine. The tannins aren't very strong though. You get more of a smoother tannins. It hits you at first and then it kind of tapers off, in my opinion.
Well, as you said, it hits you up front, and that's why, like I said for the previous one, we like it chilled a little bit, and that one will go really well with barbecues and really like goat cheese or strong cheeses, because like it hits you right away, and then it kind of smooth it out a little bit, but it's quite powerful.
Right, it's an excellent wine. It's something that's very new to my palate, and you know, whenever I try this wine with, like you said, meats, I do, you know, red meats, pork, even some porks. You know, I find it very, very, very complimentary, and it presents as well. It presents itself very well at the party, as I like to say.
Well, thanks for that.
So, just one other question. Just as a winery and a winemaker, you know, given 2020 and 2021, what have been some of the struggles that, you know, you all have faced, challenges that you've overcome, and what lessons have you learned?
Well, like I said at the beginning, I'm the sales rep, so I'm not the winemaker. So I'm going to have to quote Richard on that one. He told me quite a lot of things to be able to explain to you how it works around here. And you well said it before, everyone just sees the bottle at the end and what's inside the bottle. There's so many things. It's a year-round work, either in a winery, in the cellar, but also in the fields. For me, 75 to 80% of the quality of a wine comes from the grapes. Yes. If you don't have good grapes, you cannot make an amazing red wine. You can definitely mess it up, but you can really do a great one. But yeah, if the fruit up front is like perfect, that's one of my main ones. So yeah, he told me, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna read a little bit. Yeah, produce really good grapes. Great grapes, actually. That's one of the main struggle, because there's so many things that can happen right now, especially with climate change. We can have, well, like this year, for example, frost in April, which we usually don't have, and it killed quite a lot, you know. So that's a struggle. We can have less rain in June or July, for example, which doesn't help for the maturity of the grapes. So that's a key factor for us, especially now that we're going towards sustainability and organic agriculture. Those are questions that we've been asking ourselves for years, but it's getting even worse. That's I can't say that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's the truth. It's the truth. Yeah.
It's, at some point we have to say things like that. The time of the vintage, the harvest, sorry, is also really important for us, because we have quite high alcohol in the grapes, and so being able to pick and choose the perfect day to harvest is difficult. One day too late, you overripe, and it's not really interesting. A day, well, not a day or two before, but a week before, for example, you have too much acidity, you have too much like green taste. It's not interesting. So yeah, that's the main thing. In the cellar, we're lucky. There's been a lot of improvement in the equipment, temperature control, all that. We have such high alcohol and high sugar content that we don't really struggle with the fermentations and stuff like that. So we're lucky on that side.
Nice.
But yes, there's always one tank that doesn't finish its fermentation or something like that. And it's always a bit difficult. But overall, in the cellar, we're pretty lucky.
Absolutely. And you're lucky, and you produce awesome wines.
Thank you.
Sure. So David, is there anything else you would like to say before we end our tasting for today?
Well, first of all, thank you for that. It's a pleasure to be able to talk about those two appellations, because you said it perfectly. You didn't know anything about it 4 or 5 years ago, and and that's something that we try to focus on, being able to talk about our appellations, obviously talk about our wines. But one of my former boss always told me, we're in a tiny appellation, in a tiny region of a tiny country that produces wine. Of course, it's the one that everyone thinks about when we talk about wine, but really, we're kind of small. So it's great to be able to share with you all that, and to be able to have a proper tasting and enjoy it, and tell you what to pair the wine with, and luckily you'll be able to enjoy them as well.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, David. It has been such a pleasure chatting and tasting wine with you today. Thank you again so much.
My pleasure.
So for those of you who are tuning in, if you are in Georgia, you can find retailers to purchase these wines. If you have questions on how to get them placed in your market, comment down below. We will definitely reply to your chats, and you can visit our website at www.highimports.com. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe.